Bismillah wa salatu wa salam wa rasulullah wa ba'd. So, question time. We have another question here. Okay, so the brother asks, Assalamu alaikum, bro. I hope you're doing well. I've been watching your videos and I can see that you have a very sensible and coherent approach. I'm personally relatively new to the term Salafi. However, its methodology clearly seems to be what a Sunni Muslim should follow. I'm attracted to Salafiyah to the point I would like to call myself Salafi. But an individual warned me against calling myself this. I was told to stick to one of the four madhabs. Anything other than that is a deviation. My question is if calling yourself Salafi is necessary when Sunni essentially means the same thing, does the term Salafi necessitate you to associate to a sect that originated 200 years ago? I'm hoping this question is intelligible so that you can answer it, inshallah. Okay, so Jazakallah khair. Um, Now, for this particular question, there are a couple of things, right? The first part is it obligatory to call yourself Salafi? That's the first part. The second part is Salafiyah a group? The third part is it wajib to stick to one of the four madhabs and anything other than that is a deviation? And the third, fourth, the fourth is did the Salafi start 200 years ago? And I think that's pretty much it. So let's start first of all with calling yourself Salafi. Now, Sheikh Albani, rahimahullah, his position was that it is obligatory to call yourself Salafi. It is obligatory to call yourself Salafi. And the reason why he took this position is because so that you can distinguish yourself from the Ahlul Bidah. So you can be distinguished from Ahlul Bidah. So that's he gave a very beautiful explanation. You can actually look it up online. You'll find on YouTube. It's probably I think it's called the obligation to call for to call yourself oneself to call oneself Salafi, right, by Sheikh Albani. His explanation is actually very beautiful and he goes into great detail. So, however, Sheikh Uthaymeen, rahimahullah, he said if calling yourself Salafi will put yourself into a group, yani if it's going to group put yourself into a hizb, then don't call yourself Salafi. And this is from the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, where he said to stay away from all the groups. So you have to take both of these things into consideration. When somebody is calling themselves Salafi, they're attaching themselves to a manhaj. They're not attaching themselves to a group, right? And this is where a lot of our brothers they they fall short because how do you make harmony with both of them? Sheikh Albani, rahimahullah, he says if you're going to call yourself Salafi to distinguish yourself from the deviant groups, then you must call yourself Salafi, right? So that people know that you are not with the Ahlul Bidah, right? And this is haqq, this is the truth, right? You can't blur your manhaj. And recently, I know this is going to cause a lot of controversy, but it is the truth because we've already seen things like this before, right? Recently, and I'm only quoting the state of Sheikh Wasi Allah Abbas. He was asked about the brother Mufti Menk and how he says, you know, what are you, Salafi, Sufi, Deobandi, this chocolate man, whatever. It's a very popular video that he has Mufti Menk out there. He goes, I'm just a Muslim, I'm just a Muslim. And then Sheikh Wasiullah says you shouldn't muddy, your manhaj like that. This is not right because you're going to confuse the people, and the people who are deviant, they're the ones who hide their manhaj in order to bring their deviation out later. This is the haqq. This is the haqq, right? We've seen it time and time and time and time again, where people will say that no, just call yourself a Muslim. Just you don't have to put yourself in a group. Salafiyah is not a group; it's a methodology. So when you say you're Salafi, what you really mean is that you follow the Quran and the Sunnah with the understanding of the Sahaba, with the understanding of the Salaf Salih. You don't stray from that. That's what you mean, right? That's what Salafiyah means. So now, what happened was some brother brought some statements of Mufti Mank's father to Sheikh Wasi Allah Abbas. And Mufti Mank's father said that Mufti Mank is not Salafi, he's Diobandi. You understand? See, and if Mufti Menk just came out and said that he was Salafi, he wouldn't have that problem. Now he's got a big problem because it's clear that if this is true, and I believe it's true because I don't think his father would lie about that. Even his father has mentioned that he's teaching the books of the Diobandis in where he's from, I think Tanzania or wherever he is there from there, right? He's teaching those books, right? Then he's hiding his methodology. He's hiding, and this is what Sheikh Albaani, rahimullah, what he meant by just make it clear to the people you are not upon the path of Ahlul Bidah. The Ahlul Bidah, they hide. That's what they do. They hide, right? And the Salafis, they don't hide. They're very clear. They're clear on what they believe, and they're open with it. And what Sheikh Uthaymeen, rahimullah, excuse me, what he was saying was that because at this time the groups were starting to appear amongst the Salafis of reality, like the South Africa that we see today, like the brothers who were saying, you must follow, whoever says, for example, whoever loves Abu Khadija and Abu Iyad and this and that, then know that this was a person of the Sunnah. This is now a path towards Hizbiyah. So if people correlate or they relate Salafiyah with Hizbiyah, then don't call yourself anything. Don't call yourself Salafi. That's what Sheikh Uthaymeen said. If it's going to put yourself inside of a group, what is important is that you follow the manhaj itself, right? And you're clear about the manhaj. A Salafiyah, calling yourself Salafi will make your position clear to the people, then call yourself Salafi. But if calling yourself Salafi is going to muddy the waters, because when you say Salafi, Salafi what? You Salafi Turathi, Salafi Hizbi, whatever, Salafi South Africa, Salafi this, Salafi. If it's going to muddy the waters, then don't do it, right? So here in Canada, of course, I'm going to call myself Salafi for sure, especially since my masjid, the masjid I go to, is a Sufi masjid, right? It is a Sufi masjid. So I'm going to make myself very clear and my position clear to the people that I don't do your bid'ah. And when you're asking me to do your bid'ah, I'm just not going to do it. I'm not going to participate in your bid'ah because it's bid'ah, right? And if you want to prove to me that your bid'ah is sunnah, it's no problem. I will accept it. Al rasi, I'll put it on my head. Just give me the proof, the evidence. It's no problem. That's what Salafiyah is. We're with the truth, right? We're with the authentic hadith and the statements of the Salaf, no matter what it is. If there's a authentic hadith that says we have to go to the masjid and spin around on our heads 3 times while saying Allahu Akbar, every single spin, then we'll follow it if it's authentic, right? All these bid'ahs that the Sufis do, it'll be no problem for us to follow if there's authentic hadith, but there isn't. Why are we following it? Why? If there's no if the Salaf, the Sahaba didn't do it, then why are we doing this? And as for the madhab, that you find people that you say you must follow a madhab, and this is the reasoning that the people of the madhab they give. It's because the madhab have been scrutinized for hundreds of years by many different scholars, and the level of scholarship in the madhab is great, and blah blah blah. And the madhab themselves, they follow the Salaf, and they give all these reasons, right? You have to understand something about the madhab. It's not haram to follow a madhab. You'll find even a lot of the Salaf, they followed madhabs for madhab for their fiqh, right? There's no issue with that. We don't have a problem with that. The problem is taqleed, right? Especially in 2019, there is really, really, really no reason for anybody to be muqallid, especially in our time. Back in the past, maybe you can see it because information was not as readily available as it is today. You only have one person who maybe has 100 hadith in an entire village, right? So of course, who are you gonna follow? Nobody else has any hadith. Nobody else has books. Nobody could read. Nobody has any education, right? So you must blindly follow, and you're gonna blindly follow the person, whatever knowledge they have. And if and the way that the madhab spread, right? You probably end up blindly following madhab. It was appropriate for certain people in certain times. In our time, I don't see any possible way why it would be appropriate when we have um, all this information available. What's upon you is to follow the truth, not the madhab. That is upon you. So if there's a mistake in a particular madhab, right, and all the madhab they're basically attached to people, right? Then you would reject the statement of the madhab for that which is authentic. And this is another thing that you'll find the people of the madhab say. They say that, well, how do you know what is authentic, what is not? Because these are scholars and they know where they got their knowledge from, and they made their rulings based upon their proofs and blah blah blah. And maybe they know and you don't know. What you tell them is that we don't have any issue of following those people. Just present the proof that they use to make their ruling. That's it, right? So we're not blind followers. We're not blind followers, right? So, and then they say, well, you can't just pick up hadith, a book of hadith, and expect to understand the religion because you don't know where this hadith came and where that hadith came, and these type of things, right? All of this it has some logic to it. However, what is upon you is to follow that which is authentic, even if it goes against the imam itself, right? You follow that which is authentic. That's it, right? And did the Salafi sect originate 200 years ago? This is a claim that a lot of the Sufis, mostly Sufis, they make this claim against the Salafis, saying that, oh, we just started 200 years ago. We started with Muhammad bin Abdul Wahhab and like this, and he's the one who spread this, and all of this is all lies. You can literally find thousands, thousands of statements of the Salaf to follow the Salaf. Thousands. Ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahullah, he famously said, right? He said, there is nothing wrong with somebody who follows the madhab of the Salaf, and he attaches the ya wa nisba at the end, meaning to say that I am Salafi, right? He attaches the ya wa nisba at the end to say that he is Salafi, because the madhab of the Salaf can be nothing but the truth, right? There's nothing wrong with saying that you're a Salafi, right? There is something wrong with following somebody blindly uh, in whether they're right or whether they're wrong. So I hope this answers your questions. If I miss anything, I'll come back and expand, but I hope this answers your questions. And inshallah, you know, the Salafi madhab is the truth, as we mentioned. You can clearly say this is which a Sunni Muslim should be following. So follow that which is correct. Follow that which is correct, and don't be afraid of the blame of the blamers. Don't be afraid of the blame of the blamers. If they blame you, don't be afraid of that. All the prophets were blamed. All the big ulama in the past were blamed. Even some of our salaf were jailed for this religion. Some of our salaf were tortured for this religion. Look at Ahmad bin Hanbal, right? He was the only one coming out boldly against the Jahmiyyah by himself. He was Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah at that time, tortured and jailed. Look at Sheikh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah. He was the only one boldly coming out against the Ash'ari and the Sufiya at that time. Jailed, died in jail. So don't be afraid of the blame of the blamers. Be afraid of Allah. Wa sallallahu ala nabina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.